Sonic the Hedgehog 3 has rushed into theaters, so it's time to stop and rank all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies, plus Knuckles the series, from the worst to the best. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Share your ranking of all 4 entries in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. My list is not the right list, it's just my list, and I would love to see yours, and let's get started. Easily in last place, The Wade Show, Knuckles the series. Now, whenever this show was about Knuckles, it was exactly as much fun as we hoped it would be. Knuckles is a fun character with a very different personality and background from Sonic, and thus it just opens a bunch of different possibilities for what you could do for the main storyline of a Knuckles TV show. Unfortunately, that's not what they did with the Knuckles series. The actual way that it's structured, the plot line that drives everything forward, that hogs up most of the screen time, is about Wade and a bowling tournament and reconciling with his crazy family. It's like the plot of Kingpin the movie, except with Knuckles as a side character, and that's simply not what I want. For the obvious reason that a Knuckles series should be about Knuckles, or at least the main plot line should be about the grander Sonic universe and the technology and the people trying to harness the power of these beings, or whatever, or someone getting revenge on Knuckles. And then you get a show that has Knuckles trying to be the mentor to Wade as he's trying to gain confidence and respect, and we're doing a road trip, and there's 3 or 4 episodes in the middle that are overtly about Wade, where Knuckles has very limited screen time and is secondary to everything taking place, where we're doing family dinners and just so much stuff, putting the focus on the wrong thing. And beyond the fact that Knuckles should be the focus, Wade, I just simply don't think is a strong foundation to build a plot around. He's a fun, cutaway, comedic side character in the movies. And now we've given him this whole thing where we're exploring his family and his hobbies and all this stuff that just doesn't feel earned, and it's not what you want from a Knuckles series or a Sonic the Hedgehog spinoff or anything like that. It's an entirely wrong direction to take things, so that the main villains in it actually only have minimal amount of screen time, minimal amount of action, and don't have that much to do with what actually drives the plot forward in each episode or throughout the entire season. And if you didn't have the budget to pull off an actual Knuckles series, then don't do a Knuckles series. In third place, Sonic the Hedgehog. To be perfectly clear, there's a huge gap between Knuckles and Sonic, and there's pretty minimal gaps between the top 3. I think that this is a very consistent film franchise, and even that's one of the reasons why I was so disappointed by Knuckles, because it just felt so far below the standards of now the 3 movies. And this is a film that had a lot going against it, where if you're kind of newer to the movie space, you might not even realize this, but video game movies had a horrible reputation kind of until Sonic the Hedgehog came out. Even when the first trailer dropped for it, they redesigned his look and people thought it was horrible.
Yes, ugly Sonic, that's the spirit.
When the internet got one look at my human teeth and burned the place down.
They complained, and they actually delayed the movie to change his look to be the one that we now have. And so there was a lot of bad buzz surrounding this film. There was skepticism. Everything that you don't want for your movie, this film had. And then the movie delivered what people actually wanted, which was a character-accurate version of Sonic the Hedgehog. Now, they're taking it from him spinning through loops. They're putting it on Earth. There's a bunch of reasons for story as well as budget and other things like that, why they probably needed to do that. And, it's a road trip movie where he's riding in a car. And so there's a bunch of things where it could feel like we're missing the point a little bit here. but they got the characters right. They got Sonic, they got Eggman right, in which case people went, yes, this is it. Like, of course you have to adapt it from a video game to a movie, but we want the characters to be true to who the characters are. And so beyond that, it was just so charming. Sonic is very fun. He's very funny. They found all the right little bits to do with him. He's got a great rapport with the Donut Lord. And then, of course, they got Jim Carrey, who, if you're my age, is like Mount Rushmore of comedic actors of your lifetime. And so he picks to be in Sonic the Hedgehog, improves even as he's getting older, even as he's 30 years into his career. He's still got it. It's fun. It's funny. You want to spend time with him. So when you're not with Sonic, you're with Jim Carrey doing his thing. Those are two win-win scenarios. So a film that so many of us went into very skeptical about, and we came like, what just happened? That was actually pretty good. You made this thing into a good movie. And that has started this trajectory of the conversation around video game adaptations is so much better than it was 4 years ago because of Sonic the Hedgehog. And that was one of those first adaptations where it was good. And we've gotten so many good adaptations, Last of Us and Fallout and Super Mario Brothers, that the whole conversation changed. And a lot of that started with Sonic the Hedgehog and the team being willing to delay the film to make him look right. Our runner-up, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And with this film, it just felt like they took everything that I loved about the first one and they made it a little bit better. And a big part of that is that we added Tails and Knuckles. Now, I'm of the age that, my formative video game years where I really started getting into understanding video games and new games coming out was the console wars era of Super Nintendo versus the Sega Genesis. I had a Super Nintendo, but I loved going over to my friend's house and playing their Sega Genesis. And with time, I much prefer the Sega Genesis, somewhat even because of the Sonic games. So that set of games, Sonic, Sonic 2, and Sonic and Knuckles, like those are my memories of the Sonic franchise. Those are the formative ones. So this movie where you're having that battle in there, that was my childhood coming to life on the big screen. As you move into the third act where they touch the emerald, you get Super Sonic, you got Dr. Robotnik and the big machine, like all of that stuff. That's my Sonic experience, and we got it as a movie. And even kind of beyond that is one, like some of those little changes that kind of make the big difference is that it's Sonic with Tails on like this globe-trotting adventure that felt just a little truer to the games as opposed to the road trip with a human in the first film. Though I enjoyed the road trip in the first one quite a bit. Of course, Knuckles in there working with Dr. Robotnik, just as fun as you'd expect. Now, the big negative in this one is the human subplot about a wedding that I didn't even think the individual scenes weren't the problem. They were like good rom-com fun. Like they got chuckles and laughs out of me, but kind of like with the Wade series, you don't go to a Knuckles series wanting it to be the Wade series. You go in wanting it to be the Knuckles series. And so when you go to this movie and we spend a lot of time getting ready for a wedding, making fun of Donut Lord, and then doing Bridezilla. Every time it does that, you're like, can we just get back to the Dr. Robotnik, Knuckles, Sonic, Tails, all that fun stuff? But like I said, even with all of that, this was a really, really fun movie that it doesn't overall hurt my experience. That's just the thing that holds it back possibly from the top spot. But coming in at number 1, Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And like I said with part 2, where it felt like they took everything that I loved about the first one and made it a little bit better, with Sonic the Hedgehog 3, they delivered everything that I loved about the first 2 and removed the stuff I wasn't so crazy about in all the other entries, the human subplots. In particular, a huge focus on Wade going to a bowling tournament or Donut Lord going to a wedding. There's none of that in this film. And just right there, I think that edges out the other movies simply by making the movie 100% about what you want the movie to be about. You have a full Team Sonic from the beginning of the movie. Then you of course throw in Shadow the Hedgehog. Shadow the Hedgehog is not from my era, so I'm not can't in any way present myself to be a fan of Shadow the Hedgehog. That would be a blatant lie on my part. But as soon as you're throwing in an evil hedgehog, voiced by Keanu Reeves, I'm intrigued, I'm interested in it. And what I loved that they did with Shadow the Hedgehog is that I believe he's the first character in any of these movies or shows that is not comedic relief at all. Everyone else is still being funny. We have all the fun. And then they add in a villain that has a very traumatic backstory and is out for revenge. And it never softens it with a joke or a smile. And it's able to bring a little bit more of a weightiness to it. And then the other thing they do with that is they very much use Shadow as a counterexample to Sonic to have a little bit of a theme here about, does the trauma in your life change you? Does it change your lungs? Or are you able to stay true to who you are? And you play that out. Now, you go to a Sonic movie wanting this big, serious exploration of trauma, but because you're delivering everything you do go for, it's just one more thing that makes it a little bit better. And then the other thing, we get two different Jim Carreys as Robotniks, and in his 60s, he's still got it. He's still fun. He's still funny. Plus, bigger stakes that kind of builds up to this crescendo where, Dr. Robotnik himself has a little bit of an arc. Not so much that we cheapen who he is, but you put him in a context with different value sets with another Robotnik, where you can see why he's drawn into this other Robotnik scheme, and then you can see why at the end he would go, that's not actually what I'm about. And he has a change. And so you're even able to take a villain that you do not really want a redemptive arc for. You don't want him to stop being who he is, but you create a moment where he would behave differently than he has in the previous films. And it feels earned. I think Sonic the Hedgehog 3, definitely my favorite of the 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies, and I can't wait until we get more, so it comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, I've got more like it. You can check out my other Sonic reviews somewhere around here. You can check out my video where I ranked the highest grossing video game movies of all time a few years back. Thank you so much for watching. Keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.